Hey guys, real quick, before we get into our battle with Zappy for this week, I wanted to talk about a couple of quick transactions I made. Yes, I made two of them because I was not totally satisfied with what I had, and some options I didn't think I was going to bring too often, so I decided to swap them out and see how this goes. So the first thing we dropped was our Uxie here, who would have had the nickname Fogbound. Shout out to Mystery Dungeon for that reference. And the reason I would have dropped Uxie is because its main use is just being a switch into things like some bulky psychics, mostly bulky fighting, or like really strong fighting types, excuse me. But to be honest, there aren't really a whole lot of those in the league, and the ones that are in the league, I feel like I have pretty good responses to them. So I didn't really see a huge need to keep Uxie on my team. Now, granted, I still love Uxie. I have it in another league right now, and it's doing okay. And Uxie has done well for me in the past, so it's not like Uxie's a bad Pokemon. I just didn't find a fit for it on my team anymore. But the mon I picked up in its place I think will serve me very well. The mon I picked up is none other than Metagross. Now, what drew me to Metagross here? The first thing, I wanted to upgrade at my Steel type because Steel types are super useful in draft format and in Pokemon in general. And I just was not bringing Ferroseed nearly enough to justify keeping that, which, spoiler alert right now, Ferroseed's the other thing I dropped. But Metagross, I have complained about the lack of physical attackers on my team in general, and what does Metagross have? A nice, solid base 135 attack. It also gets a plethora of useful moves, like if we go over here, it gets stuff like the Bullet Punch for priority, Earthquake, let's see what else. It even gets Grass Knot for some certain things. Meteor Mash, Power Up Punch, Ice Punch, it gets dual screens because it's a Psychic type, it gets Pursuit, which is super useful, Rock Polish, and it keeps the Stealth Rocks that I lose with Uxie too, so that's cool. So yeah, I think Metagross is going to do pretty well for us, and we'll just have to wait and see how it does. Oh yeah, its nickname is going to be Professor X, because, you know, X-Men, and he has an X on his face, and he's going to be shiny because I think the shiny of it looks really cool. So yeah, that's our Metagross, and I already alluded to this next thing, excuse me. Ferroseed was the other thing we dropped because I just was not bringing this thing nearly enough. I mean, yeah, it has 2 weaknesses and 4 times to fire and 1 in fighting, which those two I feel like my team covers okay. My team's actually covering fire a lot worse now with Metagross than the thing I picked up in this thing's place. But the thing about Ferroseed is it's just way too passive for this team. Like, my team is pretty offensive as a whole. It's just like with a couple of walls and like Jellicent and P2. But yeah. Ferroseed, I mean, it's a decent mon, it just wasn't the right fit for my team. So I ended up dropping that. The thing I picked up, like Ferroseed, is a Grass-type Eviolite user, but one I feel like has better utility on the team. And that is none other than Tangela, whose nickname is going to be Yarn Ball, because why not? Now what I like about Tangela, comparing it to Ferroseed, its defenses, its physical defense especially, is pretty much better. And unlike Ferroseed, it resists ground, which a good ground resist is something I've kind of been wanting for most of the season, because I still have to play a couple of really threatening ground types like Zygarde and Garchomp. And Tangela is pretty useful against both of those because of the fact that it resists it. And with an Eviolite, since it can evolve to Tangrowth, its physical defense is just ridiculous. Like, there's a whole lot of hits that I might still need it to take that it can take. And the other useful thing about Tangela, well, in comparison to Ferroseed, whose offense is 50 and 24, aren't really that usable, Tangela has 100 special attack, which I think is very usable. Like, that's the same special attack as things like Jirachi and, let's see, one of those not base 100 legends that has. I think it has the same special attack as Tangrowth's attack, so that's cool. But one really useful thing about Tangela over here is this Regenerator ability, which it restores a third of its HP switching out. That is super useful on any team, it doesn't matter. So yeah, looking forward to what Tangela can do for us, as well as Metagross here. Saddening to lose both Uxie and Ferroseed, but I think it's for the better of the team. And that's all we have on transactions, and look forward to the battle in a few here. Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome back to the SBL Season 3. This week we are up against the Florida Flygons and Coach Zappe, aka Astrapi Dracos, aka Shiny Zekrom, aka the other guy recording these videos. Or recording his battles, excuse me. Okay, so Zappe here. He's gotten off to an alright start this season. He's, I believe, a solid 3-2 heading into this game. And at the time of this battle, I believe he was in first place in his division, so that's cool. Alright, last time we battled Zappe in the SBL, Suicune did Suicune things, but not the cancerous Suicune things. And I picked up a 5-1 victory, which would now count as 5-0 because stupidity. But believe it or not, the last time we battled was actually not in SBL, it was in this other league called the NGBA. And Zap actually beat me, even if it was a bit of a fluky battle, because RNG said hello. But nonetheless, this is kind of like the rubber match, if you will. Like, see who's actually going to take the advantage in our all-time series. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into what Zappe's team is here. Alright, first thing we see is this Cobalion here. It's pretty good, pretty versatile, has 90 in both offenses, it's got a good speed tier, you can run it all sorts of different ways. And it could prove to be a threat. We got the Mew there, which is his Z-Captain, like our Mew was in SBL Season 2, and... oh, Mew. Me against Mew in the SBL has not ended well in the past, so that's a demon I'm looking to exercise here. And Mew here, it gets a whole lot of moves, too many moves to count. And the way Zap chooses to run this thing, well, we'll just have to wait and see. And it's got base 100 in all of its defenses, so yeah, let's just see what this Mew can do. You got a Mandibuzz there, which is extremely bulky. Not really much on the offensive side of things, unless you run like a weak armor nasty plot Mandibuzz set, which is something I have swept with before. But regardless, I expect this Mandibuzz to mostly be defensive and do Mandibuzz things. He has a Darmanitan there, and that thing is a threat. Sure Force Flare Blitz hurts from that thing, coming off of its base like 140 or 145 attack. If you Choice Scarf this thing, it's going to outspeed a lot of things and hit a lot of things hard too, and yeah, that thing hurts. Or you could be cool and run Belly Drum, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense given my team. Or he could be even cooler and run Zen Mode Darmanitan, which again, I don't think makes a whole lot of sense against my team, but maybe those will be for another day, we'll see. He's got a Gardevoir there, which is his Mega. And we all know what Mega Gardevoir does. That thing hits like a truck on the special side with those Pixelate Hyper Voices coming off base 165 special attack. And it could even be a kind of like ad hoc defensive role with stuff like Wish, Protect, and like, shoot, what was the other move I just thought of? Will-O-Wisp for those physical attackers because his physical defense is so low. But yeah, Mega Gardevoir should be a threat. And last thing he brought is that Silvally, which I also call a budget Arceus, and I think a lot of people also do, because like Arceus, it gets access to becoming every type in the game, well, one type at a time, through its different, oh shoot, what are they, drives I think they're called, instead of plates like Arceus. But yeah, Silvally is a bit weaker than Arceus because it's only got 95 in all of its stats as opposed to Arceus' 120, but yeah, depending on the type of Silvally he runs, this thing could prove to be a problem. But we'll see. Okay, now as for the things he did not bring his kill leader for this season, which is the Buzzwole, which, I mean, could have proved to be a threat against the team I brought, but I can see why he didn't bring it. Spoils up a Moltres. Let's see, what else didn't he bring? He didn't bring the, I don't know why I'm thinking of this next, but he didn't bring Samurott, which, yeah, that thing's okay. It's kind of slow, but it hits hard. He didn't bring the Porygon Z, which that thing hits pretty hard, and a lot of things I have outspeeded. And I have a Jellicent that pretty much walled it, so... And it's not his Z-Captain, nor could he Omniboost with it anyway, so... bleh. He didn't bring Frostlass, which is something we had last season and he had in Season 1. Frostlass is alright, it's a bro. Well, can't be a bro because it's a girl. I mean, Spikes, Destiny Bond shenanigans, all that fun stuff. And the last thing he did not bring, and I didn't forget it, was the Magnezone, which he actually just picked up recently, I think. And Magnezone, I have a Landorus T, so... bleh. Okay, now as to what I brought. As you can see, it's a standardly offensive team. Well, at least on paper. Okay, so Tapu Koko here. As you may have noticed by me reading off his team, there's no ground type on this man's team unless he runs a ground Silvally, which is the only thing that could have stopped my Tapu Koko from volt switching all over the place. And to take advantage of that, this is a modest choice specs Tapu Koko. Yeah, take no prisoners. Okay, Lando is a defensive Lando this week, coming off the bench for the first time in a couple weeks. I ran a defensive Rocky Helmet Lando because I felt like I was forced to because of that Darmanitan. And I watched Zap's team builder for this. He was an adamant Darmanitan too. Like, geez, calm down. Alright, we have our Metagross making its season debut here, which if you skip through the part of the video where I talked about the transactions, this was picked up in place of Diancie. And in its debut, Metagross is Assault Vest, because I love running that item apparently. It's meant to 1v1 a Mega Gardevoir and possibly a Mew, depending on what set he runs. Okay, Hydreigon's Choice Scarf, just so I have something to outspeed his Choice Scarf Darmanitan, and Silvally if he would choose to do that. Alright, Gallade is bulk up 3 attacks. It actually had low kick and not Drain Punch this time. What? I didn't run Drain Punch, what? Yeah, that's the thing. And then Jellicent was a last second addition to the team. I originally had Nihilego in its spot, but then the more I thought about the possibility of ground Silvally, I was like, wait a second, why am I running my 4 times weak to ground thing against the... when I'm thinking about, oh hey, ground Silvally could be a threat. So I put in Jellicent instead. It's pretty standard defensive stuff, and yeah. Alright, now getting on to the battle itself. I once again led with Tapu Koko here, but I should not have, because in the back of my head I was like, he could lead Darmanitan, and that could be a problem. I thought there was a possibility he led with something else, like, he almost led with Mew, but then he noticed I didn't have my Moltres, which I'll address that now. I didn't bring Moltres because, even though we had a bunch of stuff on his team weak to Moltres, like the Cobalion, Frostlass, Buzzwole, Magnezone, and a possible Silvally depending on spread, I had a feeling he'd be running a lot of rock coverage for my Moltres, and I was correct. So yeah, I led with Tapu Koko here, and he did indeed end up leading with the Darmanitan, which I was like, okay, I'm going into Landorus immediately, which was my plan from the start. If he would lead with, or anytime he came in with Darmanitan, I was going into Lando immediately, and he does show the U-turn, which is a good play on his part, and his best play at this point was Mandibuzz. So at this point I decided to get up my rocks just to see what he would go for, and it ended up being the foul play, and after seeing that, I kind of thought, oh hey, he might not have anything for my Tapu Koko, so I just went ahead, went hard into that, and no matter what move he went for, unless it was like Bone Rush, I was getting a huge hit off on something, and it ended up being the Mew with the Volt Switch. So I get that off, it does about 40%, which ends up showing me that this Mew is really, really specially defensive, which is good intel for me for later on. So I Volt Switch out, and I go into my Metagross here, so I can Pursuit Trap it because I have that, and he shows lefties, which is more good news for later on, and the Pursuit ends up bringing it down really low, to the point where he'll have to defog away those Stealth Rocks that I put up, just so his Mew doesn't die on switch in. And the Mandibuzz is the prime candidate to do that defogging, but he doesn't end up going for defog as I go into Tapu Koko, he just roosts up again. And yeah, not wanting to kill his Mew off, he goes into his Gardevoir, which is his other somewhat specially defensive thing, and this thing almost dies to a Volt Switch. Well, not almost dies, but you kind of get the idea. Just what Tapu Koko does in this game is just, oh my gosh, it just destroys so many things. And now the Gardevoir is in kind of an impasse because he knows I have Pursuit at this point, so he can't really switch out. And so, knowing that, I went for the Bullet Punch here as he Mega Evolves, and that is able to easily kill off the Mega Gardevoir, and Metagross picks up a kill in its first game of the season. Go ahead! And now the Darmanitan comes down and it's like, okay, this thing's a threat. Let me go into my Landorus real quick, as he shows off the Flare Blitz here, and that does too much damage. As I get up a little more chip damage, and I actually decide to switch here, so then I could switch out again, and then let it kill itself with the Rocky Helmet. I wanted a little more chip damage on it so I could chip it down. Now here's where I reveal that I'm Choice Scarf to him. I go for U-turn, and the reason I go for U-turn is because I was originally going to try to save my Lando as a sack here, but after thinking about it, I was like, okay, you know what, there's really no point in me keeping my Lando around, and he's weak enough to where he'll die to the Rocky Helmet, so I ended up sacking my Lando here. And as far as I'm concerned, Lando did its job. It got rid of the Darmanitan, and got up some Stealth Rocks, which pressured his team, so yeah, that was good news. Alright, so it's a double down there, he goes into Scorbalion, and I just go back into my Tapu Koko, because why would I go into anything else? And here is actually where he reveals to be a Choice Scarf Cobalion. He ran dual Scarfers against me. And at the time I was like, okay, that's kind of weird, but after thinking about it, this was actually a brilliant bring on his part, because this was able to outspeed a Scarf Hydreigon too. Like, if I'd have run anything else Scarf, the only thing it wasn't going to outspeed Scarf is this guy, Tapu Koko. And he goes for the Iron Head, and thank the Lord I do not flinch, and I just get off massive damage with the Volt Switch. Yeah, Specs Tapu Koko is nothing to trifle with. And more shenanigans with Metagross as he continues to just Iron Head me down. I don't flinch at all, and I kill him with Thunder Punch, revealing that, which is a bit more problematic for the Mandibus, excuse me. As he goes into Sableye, which actually shows to be the Poison spread. Now, at the time I questioned this, but after hearing his thought process and his team builder, he had Toxic on this thing and he didn't want to miss it. And he ran Toxic on this thing because he noticed that my team doesn't really have the best clerical abilities. Which I think my only... Actually, I don't even know if Tangela gets Aromatherapy, but shrug. Oh well. So Sabaleye's out here. It can't really do much to me, so I don't really know why it went in, as I'm able to just clean two-shot it with Earthquake. As he attempts the Parting Shot, and this was actually news to both of us. If the opponent has Clear Body when you use Parting Shot, you will not switch out. Yeah. Which was useful for me, because then I could just keep clicking buttons against this thing. As I went for the Thunder Punch here, which doesn't kill, as I actually anticipated the Mandibus switch in, which would have done decent damage. The Metagross picking up its third kill of the game with the Bullet Punch there, as now he ends up going into the Mandibus. And I believe I just click Thunder Punch here just to see what item he is, as he defogs finally, which does get rid of the rocks if you don't lower its stats. And he does reveal to be Rocky Helmet himself, which was the proper bring on his part. And he goes for Roost here as I get in Tapu Koko, and no matter what HP he was at, this Volt Switch was killing. And the reason I end up going for Volt Switch here is because, while I could have ended the game with Thunderbolt pretty handily, there is one Pokemon on my team that needed a little bit of vengeance against the Mew, because back in SBL Season 1, when I faced Omega's Mew, he ran a Toy Scarf Mew with Dazzling Gleam to take out my Hydreigon. So, I Volt Switched into Hydreigon here as the Mew came out, and yeah, Hydreigon got his revenge against the Mew, and that is going to end up in a 5-0 victory for Diancie United in 20 turns. Wow. Yeah, I played pretty aggressively this game, not gonna lie. Like, I saw the opportunity for Specs Tapu Koko to do stuff, and it did stuff. It dented so many holes in Zap's team, and that's exactly what I was hoping for from it. Now, after a loss, Zap tends to be pretty negative, and I can understand that, especially given the magnitude of this loss and the fact that they didn't even send out Gallade or Jellicent. But at the end of the day, it's just a one-off for him, I'd say, and the matchup was really good for me. Like, again, just Specs Tapu Koko, doing Specs Tapu Koko things. He ended up making a couple of changes to his team afterwards, so in the event we see him again in playoffs, I expect I expect a better fight from him next time. Okay, so yeah, that is pretty much all I have to say about this one. Oh yeah, and normally I try to put the opponent's YouTube channels in the description of this video. I'm also going to put the link to Zap's side of this battle in the description as well, because he does live comms, and live comms are cool. And next week we will be facing off against our boy Iron, our favorite German bro. So look forward to that, and I'll see you guys next time.